What does it feel like to be cheated on twice by your girlfriend? On the day of our wedding, my girlfriend's true love, Makoto, came back, again, and again, and again. That is, the man who finished conquering her and then pulled up his pants and ran off has appeared once more. He didn't say a single word, he simply stood there quietly, and Freya lifted her skirt and ran toward him again. She said, "As long as you come, I will always choose you." Watching the two of them walk away together, I almost couldn't hold back my laughter. This is great, finally. I don't have to marry that antisocial, twisted psychopath. Chapter 1. Freya was my childhood sweetheart. After her breakup, the 5 years when she was in the most pain were the years I stayed by her side. Back then, she had fallen in love with Makoto, the conqueror, but once Makoto had won her over, he simply walked away without looking back. She chased after him, calling his name over and over again, begging him not to leave. Her cries were heartbreaking, yet he never once turned around. After Makoto left, she couldn't eat or sleep. Every day she drowned in tears. She even started drinking to forget, despite never being able to handle alcohol before. Many nights she drank so much her stomach started bleeding. It was me who took care of her in every possible way, staying by her side as she slowly healed. I chased after her for 5 whole years before she finally agreed to marry me. And yet, at our wedding, right when we were about to exchange rings, the vanished Makoto appeared again. He said nothing. He did nothing. He simply stood there, and Freya went completely mad. Chapter 2. She threw down the ring and rushed toward him without hesitation. Eagerly, she threw herself into his arms, wrapping both arms tightly around him as if she were afraid he would disappear again right before her eyes. From a distance, Makoto curled his lips into a smile and shot me a smug look, as if he were saying, "See that, George? Some people don't have to do anything. Just standing here quietly is enough to beat the 1,800 days and nights you spent trying." The guests erupted in shock. Freya's father was so furious that he grabbed his cane and swung it at Makoto. "You disgrace," he roared. But Makoto didn't dodge or move. He simply stood there. Even as blood streamed down his forehead from the blow, he didn't take a single step back. Freya rushed to shield him. With reddened eyes, she cupped his face and choked out through tears. "You idiot, who steals a bride like this? Couldn't you at least say, 'Come with me'?" Chapter 3. Freya's tears flowed uncontrollably as she looked at him pitifully. She asked, "Makoto, do you still want me?" Makoto smiled gently, his voice sincere with every word. "Of course, I told you before, you're my little princess. I'll always wait for you. That promise will never change." Mr. Liu was so furious he nearly fainted, but no one could stop them. Hand in hand, they walked forward without hesitation. Makoto turned back and looked at me triumphantly, giving me a contemptuous smile. His lips moved silently, speaking to me without a sound. "I told you, this time, I can still beat you." Yes, he had already come to see me last night. He looked at our wedding rings and laughed. "George, these rings were actually handmade by Freya and me back then." I didn't argue, because he was right. After all, engraved on the inside of the rings were still the letters FM. When Freya had sweetly begged me to replace our wedding rings with this pair, I already knew. The person she wanted to marry had never been me, but I still smiled at her gently and said, "Okay." Makoto rolled up his sleeve provocatively, revealing the bracelet on his wrist. The black obsidian bracelet matched the silver-white one Freya wore. It had been bought at a cheap roadside stall for just a few dozen yuan. Yet because Makoto had given it to her, Freya had never been willing to take it off. If I even touched it, she would get angry. Makoto looked at me with the same disdain he had back in high school. "So what if I broke her heart back then? So what if you stayed by her side for 5 years? He smirked confidently. "Do you believe that tomorrow I can still beat you?" He laughed. "Because I'm her Prince Charming, and Prince Charming is always pure and shining." Chapter 4. At that moment, watching their perfectly matched backs as they walked away together, I lowered my head in apparent loneliness. I ran through every sad memory of my life just to keep from laughing out loud. "I believe you. Of course I believe you can beat me. In fact, I want you to beat me even more than you do, because I already knew. This world is a novel. Freya Liu is the heroine, the conqueror is the male lead, and I am the malicious childhood friend who exists only to stand in their way. If it weren't for following the plot, I would have pulled Freya's oxygen tube the moment she was admitted to the hospital, because she is a complete and utter sociopath. She has long known that she is the heroine, the ruler of this world. On the surface, she is obedient and sweet, the treasured jewel of the Liu family. But in reality, everyone in her eyes is nothing more than a toy for her amusement. When I was in high school, I personally witnessed a boy confess to her, "Freya, I like you." She looked up at him and smiled gently. "Oh, then, are you willing to give me your heart?" Chapter 5. The boy froze for a moment, clearly never expecting her to accept. It was as if a huge stroke of luck had just fallen on him, and he nodded again and again. But in the very next second, Freya pulled out a knife and stabbed it straight into his chest. Blood burst out like a fountain, splattering across her face. She wiped it away casually with the back of her hand and stared at me, hiding in the corner. With a ghostly smile, she said, "My dear childhood friend, what did you see?" My face turned pale as paper as I stammered, I didn't see anything." But when she truly falls in love with someone, that is when she becomes the most terrifying, because that person will become her favorite toy. Her hand pressed gently against my trembling chest, and then she stood on tiptoe, leaning close to my ear. Like a snake flicking its tongue, she whispered, "Don't worry, I like you too much to kill you just like that." So, in the eyes of outsiders, Freya is gentle and virtuous, always devoted to me. But in truth, I wish someone else would take that blessing off my hands. Chapter 6. Freya Lu is the high and mighty young lady of the Lu family, and I am nothing more than the son of her family's driver. There were plenty of people in school who wanted to pursue Freya, so the rich kids who disliked me bullied me all the time. Someone would always sneakily throw a ball at me on the playground. When I crouched down in embarrassment, clutching my head after being hit, the guy would burst into laughter and say, "Sorry, man, I thought since your dad's a driver, your sense of direction must be great. Figured you'd dodge it." But that same day after school, he would be kneeling in front of me. Freya would look at his slender fingers and sigh admiringly. "What beautiful hands." Then she would step on them. The sound of bones cracking came from beneath her foot, along with the boy's agonized groans. She smiled with clear enjoyment, just as pleasant as I imagined. Every night, she would sneak into my cramped little room. She would sit on my desk, grab my collar, and kiss me passionately. Chapter 7. But everything changed the day the conqueror, Makoto, transferred to our school. He looked down at me arrogantly and said, "So you're Freya's childhood friend?" I nodded. He looked at me mockingly. "Stop fooling yourself. She likes you now only because I haven't shown up yet, and I am the man destined to be her male lead." Back then, I had even kindly warned him, "You should stay away from her. She's not someone you can handle." He sneered, "A woman like her might be too much for you, but I'm not the same as you." After he appeared, Freya quickly grew tired of me and fell for him instead. So after school, I became the one kneeling on the ground. Makoto had someone shove a toad into my mouth. Then he clapped his hands happily as he watched my terrified and miserable expression. "A toad like you belongs with your own kind, and you still dream of eating swan meat." Freya stood beside him, thoughtfully handing him a bottle of water. "Thirsty?" It was a tenderness I had never seen from her before. Makoto basked in her affection, glancing at me smugly, as if he were showing off. But when I turned my back, I couldn't help laughing. Chapter 8. He probably doesn't know this yet. The more Freya likes someone, the better she treats them, but later, the more cruelly she will torment them. But back then, after Makoto successfully conquered her heart, he disappeared immediately. He never had the chance to see Freya's true nature. At that time, Freya almost went mad. Not for any romantic reason. It was because she had laid out such a heavy bait, yet never received the reward she had been craving for so long. And marrying me, from the very beginning, was just one of her moves. A move meant to force Makoto to come back. Makoto despises and looks down on me, the so-called childhood friend, more than anyone. How could he possibly tolerate me marrying Freya and replacing him as the male lead of this world? Chapter 9. Before long, Freya returned to the Lu mansion with Makoto. I wasn't surprised at all, because earlier, I had secretly overheard a conversation between Makoto and his system. The system said, "Host, you already received a reward of 5 million for completing the conquest mission last time. Are you sure you want to accept the mission again?" Makoto replied, "Of course. Isn't it true that as long as I take everything George has, I can stay in this world? What's so good about going back to the real world? Here, I'm the one and only protagonist." The system said, "But if you fail the mission, you will be erased." He laughed. With a mission this easy, failing should be harder than succeeding. Just moments earlier, Makoto had been holding Freya and chatting happily, but the moment he stepped into the Lu family mansion, he suddenly knelt down with a pained expression and begged Mr. and Mrs. Lu to allow him to marry their daughter. Freya Lu also knelt beside him, choking with tears as she pleaded with her parents to approve. At first, Mr. and Mrs. Lu firmly refused. Mr. Lu even slammed his cane on the ground in anger. He shouted, "Back then, during the car accident, George's father traded his own life for mine, and George stayed by your side for 5 whole years. You're being utterly ungrateful. Let me tell you, if you want to break off the engagement and marry someone else, it'll be over my dead body." But in the end, his tone gradually softened. Chapter 10. He said, Fine. Who told you you're my daughter? The more I look at Makoto, the more I like this boy. From now on, you can just treat George as your brother." Saving someone's life. 5 years of companionship. None of it could compete with the halo of the male lead. Even the branch company I had spent 3 years building up was handed over to Makoto with a single sentence. He sat in my president's office, while I became his subordinate. Mr. Liu said coldly. Makoto is the Liu family's future son-in-law, and you, just the driver's son, should know your place. The fact that our family lets you stay and earn a living here is already generosity. Makoto leaned back in the office chair with his legs crossed, ordering me around to make tea for him. Then he poured the freshly boiled tea over me and laughed. Tea, this cheap suits someone of your level perfectly. My arm instantly turned bright red, blisters rising everywhere. The pain made me grit my teeth, but he casually grabbed the ashtray and smashed it toward my face. Makoto cursed. You're just an NPC, and you think you can compete with me? Yet even after he treated me like that, I still responded with kindness. I even took him to see Freya's basement. Inside, bloodstains splattered across the walls, and the room was filled with instruments she used to torture people. I spoke earnestly, telling him that Freya wasn't just a dangerously Yandere lover, she was also a sociopath, and that I, the saint-like male supporting role, was the truly kind person who only had his best interests in mind. Makoto clearly had absolute confidence in his identity as the protagonist. He grabbed my collar and laughed. So what if she's Yandere? If you handle it right, that just makes things exciting. And what if she's a sociopath? A villainous heroine would never torture the male lead. Then he smirked coldly. As for you, tonight I'll make sure she really enjoys torturing the piece of trash who keeps getting in our way. Chapter 11. That night, Freya came to my room again. She stood by my bedside, the knife in her hand gleaming under the light, as if she were carefully considering how to butcher me. She said, "George, Makoto told me to come and give you a proper lesson." I spread my hands. "So, are you planning to kill me?" But the very next second, she pressed herself against me and kissed me wildly. Her voice trembled with barely concealed excitement. "How could that be? I came to ask you how you want him to die. Should I shave him down into a stick and give it to my favorite Geo, just like Conqueror No. 15? I shrugged. "What can I do? Conqueror No. 49. Even if everyone loves you, the male lead, your Yandere heroine only loves me, the NPC." Chapter 12. I shook my head. Not good. Her seductive, lingering kisses fell one after another. Her voice was thick with desire as she said, "Why do you keep making me hold back? I'm going crazy from it. I really want to kill him." My thumb brushed over her soft lips. "Be good. If you don't behave, I won't like you anymore." Her eyes were flushed red, dark pupils swirling with emotion. "You told me to cooperate with his conquest mission. You told me to walk away with him at the wedding. I did everything you asked. Why do you still want me to stay with him? I clearly belong only to you." I smiled. "Because I only like things that belong to someone else, women included." The room fell into a terrifying silence. She kissed my neck and whispered softly, "All right, whatever Geo wants me to do, I'll do it." Chapter 13. The next day, Makoto ordered me to run errands again and buy coffee for him. When he saw me limping, he laughed loudly. "You're Freya's childhood friend, right? I only told her to teach you a little lesson. Didn't expect she'd actually break your leg. Ha ha ha. Interesting. Really interesting." When I handed him the coffee, he suddenly stuck out his leg. I tripped and fell to my knees. He grabbed my hair and slammed my head toward the ground. "Knock your head a few times and beg. If I'm in a good mood, I might ask Freya to let you off." I acted as humble as a stray dog, quickly knocking my head against the floor again and again. His fingers tapped lightly on the table as he watched, laughing happily. I met Freya's gloomy gaze at the doorway, and I smiled too. She walked in slowly, her lips moving silently as she counted. Makoto turned around and laughed. "What did you say?" She smiled gently. 25. Makoto smirked proudly. "Yeah." He knocked his head 25 times for me. That kind of smile from Freya was something I knew all too well. When Conqueror No. 28 smashed 3 beer bottles over my head, she had smiled just like that and softly said the number 3. Later, she stabbed him 3 times. Chapter 14. A few days later, Makoto arrived at my house aggressively with a group of people. Behind him, servants were carrying piles of dog food and dog toys. As he rummaged around the house, he laughed. "George, where's that useless mutt of yours? I don't raise trash breeds like that, but since it's yours, I guess I'll just have to take it away." "What?" Makoto's mission this time was to take away my Little Orange. Little Orange was a stray dog my father rescued. He gave it to me as my 20th birthday present. But only 1 month after my 20th birthday, my father died in a car accident. That accident had been arranged by him. He had tampered with the car. He deliberately died in place of Mr. Liu. Because he had a terminal illness, he wanted to use his final act to secure a future for me. Lying in the hospital bed, barely able to breathe, he still comforted me with a voice so faint it was almost inaudible. "Don't be sad. From now on, Little Orange will stay with our George and keep him company for Dad." But now, even Little Orange was about to be taken away. Hearing the sound of food, It wagged its tail happily and ran toward Makoto. It had never seen so much delicious food and so many fun toys before. Almost pleading, I called out, "Orange, come here." Chapter 15. But it ignored me and buried its head in the food, eating happily. Makoto walked over and patted my face, sneering, "George, I'm a protagonist and you're just a supporting character. A useless NPC like you. No matter how hard you try, you can't keep anything. Your dad abandoned you. Freya left you. And now look, even your dog doesn't want you anymore." He continued. "As an NPC, your life has no meaning. Your existence is only to push the plot forward. So don't dream about things that were never meant to belong to you." My eyes turned red. In a burst of fury, I grabbed his throat. "My dad never abandoned me." He burst into hysterical laughter. "If you've got the guts, then strangle me to death." My grip tightened, and his face quickly turned purple. But the next second, a storm of pain exploded inside my body like fireworks. I collapsed to my knees in agony. Makoto stepped on my head and laughed. "If you deviate from the plot, the system will punish you. In this world, only the protagonist has freedom." Got it. Useless NPC. After he left, I raised my head and clenched my teeth. "Don't worry, noble protagonist. I will kill you, and the system that took away my freedom. None of you are getting away." Chapter 16. Little Orange soon forgot about me. When it saw me, it no longer wagged its tail and ran toward me happily. But I didn't blame it. NPCs are like machines. We receive the system's commands, then act accordingly, performing scene after scene that the system arranges. We have neither the ability nor the right to resist. We are born as the characters that were never meant to be favored. Makoto loosened the leash, crouched down, and patted Little Orange's head. With a cigarette in his mouth, he pointed at me provocatively. "Go, bite him." The moment his words fell, Little Orange charged toward me. I couldn't resist. I simply closed my eyes and accepted my fate, but the pain I expected never came. When I opened my eyes, Little Orange was standing quietly in front of me. Its eyes were wet, as if it had just been through a heavy rain. Makoto shouted angrily, his voice breaking, "You stupid dog, what are you doing? I told you to bite him. I'm your owner now." Little Orange didn't move. It silently looked at me, then it lowered its head and gently licked my hand, just like it had done countless times over the past 5 years. That was how it showed its love. Then it suddenly turned and ran toward Makoto, fast as the wind. Makoto's scream rang out, because Little Orange had sunk its teeth deep into his leg. Bright red blood spilled down like beads from a broken string. Makoto frantically punched the dog. "Damn dog, are you crazy? How dare you bite me?" Tears surged uncontrollably, almost drowning me. It wasn't crazy. It was defying the system to protect me. It was keeping the promise it had made to my father. Chapter 17. Little Orange soon began to whimper and convulse. The system had punished it. Makoto seized the chance, grabbed its leg, and slammed its head hard against the ground. I rushed forward and picked it up. Blood seeped from the corner of its mouth. It had already stopped breathing. Makoto looked down at us with contempt. An NPC is still an NPC. Even if its awareness awakens, it's still just an NPC. See, this is what happens when you hurt the protagonist. He smiled and patted my face. "George, this is just the appetizer. The real fun is still coming." I held Little Orange's body and sat there from dawn until nightfall. Its warmth slowly slipped away through my fingers, until it became cold like ice, cold enough to freeze my heart. Freya ran over like a madwoman and hugged me tightly. Her eyes were bloodshot, her voice cold and hoarse. "I'll find someone to kill him right now. I'll chop off his hands and feed them to the dogs." I grabbed her shoulders tightly and said each word slowly. "No, even if you tear him to pieces, more conquerors will keep coming. How could one death ever be enough? I want him, and the system behind him, to die together." A smile slowly spread across my face. "Besides, what's the fun in killing him like that?" He was right. The real fun was still coming. I gently opened Little Orange's closed eyes. Then I whispered, "Little Orange, watch closely. Watch how I send the people who killed you straight to hell." Chapter 18. Freya treated Makoto better and better, and Makoto liked her more and more. So when Freya merely cooked a meal for me, he became insanely jealous. He smashed plates and bowls viciously and shouted, "She never even goes into the kitchen. And she actually cooked for you. You worthless bastard, if you ever let her look at you again, this will be your fate." I trembled like a leaf in fear, but after he left, I smiled happily. Makoto had finally fallen in love with Freya, not just to take her away from me, but truly fallen in love with her. Every time a conquest mission fails, it consumes a tremendous amount of energy from the system, energy from another world. The more of the plot that unfolds, the greater the loss. So the system fears failure even more than the conquerors do. I heard the system warn Makoto. "Host, the system has detected that the heroine appears to be showing some abnormalities." Makoto immediately grew anxious. Did she fall for George again? The system replied, I have not yet detected the specific problem. Let me remind you again, if this mission fails, you will be completely erased. You will not exist in any form in any space. You now have one final chance to terminate the mission and return to the real world. Do you wish to terminate the mission? Makoto remained silent for a long time. Then he said he needed some time to think. Chapter 19. The next day, Freya prepared a large table full of dishes and waited at home for him to get off work. With a pitiful expression, she said, "These are all your favorite dishes. I used to be too willful. I didn't know how to do any housework and always lost my temper with you. After you left, I realized how wrong I had been. So during the 5 years you were gone, I practiced cooking every day. Makoto, from now on, whatever you want to eat, I'll cook it for you. I'll behave. I won't throw tantrums anymore. Please, don't leave me again. Okay." Before she could finish speaking, Makoto pulled her into his arms, deeply moved. "Silly girl." Then he raised his eyebrows and glanced at me. "Then why does George get some too?" Freya picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and held it up to his mouth, pouting slightly. "Didn't you say you loved my mom's sweet and sour ribs the most? I could never get the taste right, so I had George taste test them for me. Hurry and try it. Does it taste right this time?" He laughed in understanding and cast me a smug sideways glance. "That makes sense. Someone like him is only good for taste testing anyway." That night, I heard him say excitedly to the system, "System, I'm going to stay here for Freya. I'll be her male lead." And that same night, Makoto's heroine was pinned against the wall by me, kissed until her legs went weak, her arms wrapped around my neck, her skin burning hot, her voice hoarse as if scorched by fire. She whispered, "Gio, say you love me." I pulled her into my arms and kissed her earlobe. The words slipped from between my lips. "I love you." Her pupils trembled, and she couldn't suppress a soft sound. Looking at Makoto across the room, smiling triumphantly, I slowly curled my lips into a smile. "Dear Conqueror No. 49, welcome to my hunting moment." Chapter 20. Makoto was in a car accident. His kidneys were severely damaged, and he needed a transplant. He lay pale on the hospital bed, yet his expression was as arrogant as ever. "George, you'd better take good care of your body lately. After all, your kidney will soon belong to me. Don't overwork it." This was his final mission, to take my life. According to the plot, as long as Freya forced me to donate my kidney to him, I would die. But this time, I calmly looked at him and said, "That's my kidney. Why should I give it to you?" He laughed uncontrollably, as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. "Why? Because I'm the protagonist. I want your life, and she'll give it to me immediately." Confident and relaxed, he took out his phone and dialed Freya's number. But his face quickly grew colder and colder. Because Freya didn't answer, he began to panic, dialing again and again. But every call disappeared into silence. Not a single response. I leaned down and looked at him with amusement. "Don't bother. Haven't you noticed? Since your accident, your heroine hasn't come to see you even once." Chapter 21. He grabbed my collar in panic, but I pried his fingers off one by one. Makoto's eyes widened in terror, filled with fear, regret, pain, and disbelief. Then he struggled to his feet and smashed every piece of equipment in the hospital room. He panted heavily, his furious voice almost tearing through my eardrums. "George, you despicable bastard. Stop trying to drive a wedge between us. I know exactly what this is. You hate me for taking everything from you. Freya loves me. She loves me very much. Just wait, she'll dig out your kidney herself and bring it to me." But Freya never showed up. Not even once. The one who came to the hospital every single day, without fail, was me. Because the look of pain on his face was so thrilling to watch. A week later, he finally couldn't take it anymore. He crawled on the ground like a dog, clutching my pant leg and begging, "George. Brother Wang. Grandpa Wang, please, I'm begging you. Just let me see her once. Just once." His eyes were empty and lifeless, like a dog that had been abandoned, pathetic and miserable. That desperate, pitiful look on his face was something I truly loved. So I admired it for quite a while before finally smiling and saying, "All right, I'll take you to see her." Chapter 22. I brought him to Freya's basement. The walls were smeared with blood, and the metallic smell of it filled the air. The moment he stepped inside, he gagged. I politely apologized. "Sorry about that. She has a bad habit. She never likes cleaning up the scene afterward." I led him forward and enthusiastically introduced the place. "This one here is Conqueror No. 28. He liked burning me with cigarette butts, so we smoked him a little. We figured he might enjoy it. And in the jars on the left are all that remain of Conqueror No. 15. He wanted to dismantle me and sell my organs overseas, so we decided to fulfill his wish. The color slowly drained from Makoto's face. We walked all the way to the last room in the basement. I smiled as I opened the door. Inside was an iron cage, and inside the cage was a woman. Her entire body was covered in wounds. The moment she saw me, she rushed to the cage door, grabbing the bars and shaking them violently. letting out muffled cries toward me. When Makoto saw her face clearly, he screamed and fell back onto the floor, pointing at her with trembling fingers. He stammered. Why does she look exactly like Freya? Kindly. I helped him back to his feet. My respected male lead, I said, because she is your real heroine. The one you fell in love with was a fake Freya. The system gasped softly. So that's the problem with the heroine, she was swapped. Makoto turned and tried to run, but before he could take more than a few steps, a blow from a stick knocked him unconscious. Willow, the NPC who had been impersonating the heroine all along, walked toward me with a bright smile. She wore heavy makeup and carried a baseball bat over her shoulder. Chapter 23. My name is George. I am the malicious supporting character in a novel. The heroine, Freya, was the one who told me this. That year I was 22, and I was the most devoted simp my childhood sweetheart Freya had. Even though she was a sociopathic monster, I still loved her like a madman, although even I didn't know why I loved her. On the day I confessed to her, she smiled, accepted my flowers, and agreed to be my girlfriend. Then that night, she asked me to come to her house to study. When I nervously pushed open the door, there were more people inside than just her. There were 2 other men. They tied me up and put a dog chain around my neck. They forced me to crawl on the ground and bark like a dog. I refused. So that day I was beaten until I was almost dead. Freya stepped on my head and pressed a cigarette out on my face. She said, "What are you unwilling about? I'm the heroine of this world. You're supposed to be my simp, and you still want to be with me. Look at your own status first." Chapter 24. I don't remember what happened after that. I only remember that my clothes were soaked with blood and my body was covered in wounds. They were all killed by me. Freya was the last one I killed, but after she died, a piercing pain spread through my organs, and then I died too. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my childhood. Everything had started over. Gradually, I understood. I was an NPC. In this world, I played the role of the malicious supporting character. My main job was to be a simp for the heroine and to obstruct the male and female leads from being together. In the end, I was just a tool. My only purpose was to highlight the male lead and push forward the relationship between the male and female leads. I was vicious and ridiculous. No matter how hard I tried, I would never receive anything in return, and I was destined to walk toward a tragic ending that the system had already written for me. Chapter 25. But in this world, I had parents and friends. The happiness and hardships we experienced together were all real. There were things I wanted to do, places I wanted to go, people I wanted to love. So why should I live like a machine, accepting commands and carrying them out without thought? Why should I always stand in the shadows, living as a faceless background prop? Why should I accompany the male and female leads over and over again in their boring conquest game? I began to rebel against this world, but I couldn't do anything that deviated from the plot. If I did, the system would punish me, because this world revolves around the male and female leads. They have absolute freedom and priority. All NPCs exist to serve them. After countless attempts, I finally came up with a plan. The NPC System Eradication Plan. Chapter 26. I couldn't act freely, so I needed someone who could act freely to become my blade. Since the heroine Freya refused to listen to me, I decided to replace her. That was when I found Willow. She was Freya's twin sister, her foil. Willow had always worked extremely hard since childhood, but as an NPC, no matter how hard she tried, she was always stepped on by the young lady Freya. Even though they were twins, Mr. and Mrs. Lu always favored Freya. They hated Willow as if she were their enemy. They locked her in a dark room and beat her like mad. Pointing at her nose, they would shout, "How could I give birth to such a useless daughter? I should have drowned you in the toilet back then." All of this was because Freya was the heroine. She possessed the halo of the protagonist, and Willow existed only to highlight Freya. Just like her name, love, beauty, and nobility. Chapter 27. Later, Willow accidentally fell into the water and died, but I knew she hadn't died. She had simply been locked away by Freya, locked in a cage like an animal. Freya hated Willow, because the way Willow struggled and tried so hard annoyed her. Why would an NPC live with such effort? So she locked Willow in the basement and tortured her in all sorts of ways. Willow's body was covered in scabs that formed, were torn open, and formed again. Sunlight poured in through the small, high window, but it could never reach her. She would stretch out her hand, trying to touch it, but before she could reach the warmth she longed for, Freya would crush the bones in her fingers under her heel. So she became like a flower that never received sunlight, gradually withering, then slowly rotting away in the darkness. Freya loved the sight of her crawling on the ground like a dog, unable to stand again. She smiled and said, "That's right. That's the posture an NPC should have." Chapter 28. I reached my hand out to Willow in the cage. "Come, let's walk out of this prison together." The prison I meant was not only the cage that trapped her here, but also the cage the system placed over every NPC's head, the cage that trapped us inside the plot. She hesitantly reached out her hand, then withdrew it again in defeat. Her eyes were dark and empty, unable to reflect even a trace of light. She said, "I'm useless. No matter how hard I try, I can never compare to Freya. No one likes me. Even my parents hate me. Freya says someone like me only deserves to stay in a dark cage." I held her dirty hand. "You're not useless. It's just that some people are both stupid and cruel. Since they can't shine themselves, they try to snuff out everyone else's light." I leaned closer, my breath brushing against her neck. Her body trembled uncontrollably. Then I said slowly, word by word, "Someone like her belongs in a cage. So, why don't we lock her in this cage instead?" She looked at me. Light slowly rose in her eyes. "Okay," she said. From that day on, Willow replaced Freya as the heroine, and Freya became the NPC locked inside the cage. The system noticed nothing. The system gains energy by successfully running the world according to the plot. So it constantly uses money as a reward to attract people into this world to conquer the heroine, because this world requires a male lead. In the real world, those conquerors were weak, but once they entered this world, they instantly transformed into protagonists who held the highest authority without needing to do anything. They lived at the very top of the world, above all power. All NPCs were at their mercy. Once weak themselves, they became strong, and the first thing they did after gaining power was to turn their blade against those weaker than themselves. So they all enjoyed bullying and humiliating me. The real Freya even joined them in bullying me, because in order to conquer her, they flattered and entertained her until she was pleased. Even though she knew they were trying to conquer her, she enjoyed being served, and when she was happy, she would reward them with a little sweetness. As for me, in her eyes I was nothing, just her dog. If I died, I died. What did it matter? But Willow was different. She said she was willing to become my blade. Even after she became the heroine, even after becoming the ruler of this world, she was still willing to be the blade of me. An NPC. Chapter 29. Every time a conquest mission fails, the system's energy suffers a loss. The more the plot progresses, the closer it gets to the final moment, the greater the damage a failure causes to it. So we had to follow the plot and drain its energy. And so I was tortured over and over again by 48 conquerors. Then Willow eliminated them one by one, making them suffer 1,000 times the pain I had endured. But for 48 whole attempts, we still couldn't destroy the system. So on the 49th attempt, I asked Willow to cooperate with Makoto's conquest. Then we lured him back to accept a second mission, because if Makoto succeeded in his second mission after entering this world again, it would unlock a hidden storyline. He would be able to remain here forever as the protagonist, and the system would gain an enormous source of energy as a reward, allowing it to exist endlessly. But if he failed, he would be erased, and the system's energy would also be exhausted, causing it to completely lose control of this world. This was a gamble, and everyone sitting at the table was betting. Chapter 30. Makoto woke up. He discovered he was tightly bound and began struggling like a madman. In the room next door, someone was sharpening a knife. Scrape, scrape. The grinding sound of metal against stone felt as if it came not from the next room, but from the depths of hell itself. Willow was sitting on a swing. I stood behind her, gently pushing it back and forth. The hem of her white dress swayed in the air. There were small blood stains on it, like roses blooming in the dark. I smiled brightly at Makoto. "Brother, you're awake." My smile was warm and friendly, but he burst into terrified sobs. "Why? I clearly completed the conquest before. Even if she wasn't the real heroine, her affection meter for me had already reached the maximum. She should love me." The knife sharpening sound from the next room didn't stop. In fact, it became even louder. Willow jumped down from the swing and gently touched his trembling face. "That's because your system is too stupid. It judges my affection meter based on my actions. But my real feelings for you have always been negative." She tilted her head slightly. "Do you know what kept me acting alongside you this whole time?" Makoto's hair was a mess like a bird's nest. Huge tears rolled down from his swollen red eyes. I took Willow's hand and smiled with delight. "The reason," I said, "was to kill you." Then I added calmly, "You were right. Prince Charming is always pure and shining, but unfortunately, I'm the one who is her Prince Charming." Chapter 31. Makoto screamed wildly. System. Enforce punishment. Hurry and enforce punishment. An NPC is trying to harm the protagonist. A mechanical voice sounded. "It's useless. Host, your mission has already failed. You will soon be erased. My energy is also about to run out. I have already lost control of this world." The system sighed in disbelief. "How is this possible? How could two NPCs with nothing defeat me?" My voice mixed with the scraping sound of the knife and drifted far away with the wind. "Because you only see the surface," I said. "That's why you can't hear the cries in the hearts of every NPC, cries powerful enough to shatter the sky. They are the cries for freedom. Willow curled her lips into a proud smile and sat back on the swing. She swung higher and higher, farther and farther, free, like the wind. Chapter 32. The knife in the next room had been sharpened until it gleamed, so bright it could reflect a person's face. Willow picked up the polished blade and walked over to Makoto. She smiled faintly, but her voice was cold, cold enough to freeze someone's blood. You made George knock his head 25 times. So, Makoto finally collapsed completely. Tears streamed down his face as he struggled desperately, screaming hoarsely. His once handsome face was now filled with fear and despair. Willow expressionlessly stuffed a toad into his open mouth, just like he had once done to me. He could only produce broken, muffled sobs from his throat. Willow suddenly turned back and smiled at me gently. Gio, do you want to go back and wait for me? I was silent for a long time. Then I shook my head and smiled happily. For a scene this wonderful, of course I'm staying to watch. Epilogue. The system disappeared, and this world restarted. Without the heroine's halo, Freya was nothing more than complete trash. Her parents no longer favored her, and fairly enough, she became a useless decorative vase, one already full of cracks. At 16, she was imprisoned for school bullying and negligent homicide. That's exactly where someone like her belongs, locked in a cage forever. Meanwhile, Willow's diligence and intelligence were finally seen by everyone. Under a moonless night sky, she shone brilliantly. A star is a celestial body that produces its own light and heat. Even if its glow is small, it comes from itself. No one can take it away. But the moon, as a satellite, shines only because of the sun. Freya, without the system, was like the moon without the sun, sinking into endless darkness. My name is George. I'm not a malicious supporting character. I'm simply George. I never destroy anyone's love. My love has always been honest and free. No strange people come to bully me anymore. And I still have the best father in the world. He's a driver. He works diligently and efficiently. And he's warm-hearted and kind. He never gets cancer because some system forces his son to be bound to Freya. He never has to sacrifice his life in a car accident to save Mr. Liu so that the Liu family will owe George a debt and support him marrying Freya. Instead, he lives a long, healthy, and happy life. He adopts a stray dog, a simple mixed breed. He names it Little Orange and gives it to his beloved son George as a 20th birthday present. He hopes George's life will be full and complete, just as he wished. I am happy every single day. Right now, I'm lying comfortably on the sofa, basking in the sunlight. Little Orange runs over wagging its tail and jumps into my arms, licking my hand again and again. I know this is how it shows affection, so I sit up and rub its fluffy head, responding warmly. Little Orange, I like you too. The woman beside me is suddenly unhappy. She widens her eyes angrily and suddenly sits on my lap. Her hand rests on my shoulder as she stares at me with round eyes. Who did you just say you like? I laugh and rub her head too. Willow, are you sick or something? The next second, she leans forward and settles deeper into my arms. She grabs my tie and kisses me. Our lips intertwine, her sweet taste filling my mouth. After a long moment, she finally lets me go. Turning her head, she gently bites my earlobe and mutters resentfully. You can only like me. I pull her into my arms, breathing softly. Willow, Little Orange is a dog. She tilts her head up and kisses me again, her voice husky and warm. You said I'm your little kitten too. So tell me, who do you like the most? She kisses me until I can hardly breathe, and I surrender helplessly. All right, I like you the most. She cups my face and looks at me. The deep affection in her eyes almost drowns me. Then she says, then it's settled. In this life, the next life, and the life after that, you can only like me the most. Okay.